75 years, 4 million babies, one mission. More than 4 million babies are born each year, and the March of Dimes, along with our volunteers and supporters, has helped each and every one through research, education, vaccines, and breakthroughs. Franklin Roosevelt founded the March of Dimes in 1938 to find a way to prevent polio.
Tonight, because of your splendid help, we are making it possible to unite all the forces by starting the work of the new National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis.
Thanks to March of Dimes funded research, vaccines were developed that ended the polio epidemic in the United States and most of the world.
From overcast Ann Arbor, Michigan this morning, humanity received some of the brightest news in all its history. The killer, the crippler, poliomyelitis is losing the war.
There hasn't been a single new case of polio in more than 3 decades. The March of Dimes encourages parents to make sure their children get all 14 vaccines, including the polio vaccine, to keep them safe from serious diseases. In 1962, the March of Dimes helped fund the Nobel Prize-winning research that identified the double helix structure of DNA. This research paved the way for mapping the human genome. The result? Tests and treatments for dozens of genetic diseases that are saving thousands of lives today. In 1964, another breakthrough, a blood test that helps detect and prevent inherited mental retardation. A single drop of blood can now be tested for 30 diseases, allowing prevention to start from day one.
We just feel really blessed because of the research that's done by March of Dimes and the new innovative technology that was afforded to us. It's really helped Brooklyn, and it just makes us smile every day we see her because we know she's a blessing.
In 1985, the March of Dimes helped to develop a way to collect and spray pulmonary surfactant into premature lungs, which helps prevent them from collapsing. Surfactant therapy has saved thousands of lives.
Without what the March of Dimes did with research back many years ago, that medicine that helped my daughter's lungs, my daughter may not have been here.
We're also educating moms and moms-to-be throughout their entire pregnancy with trusted information, community programs, and numerous resources. And when something does go wrong, we stand by parents with information and comfort.
I get emotional because I think of the March of Dimes as being like an angel. The programs that they have for moms and even dads, but I found just peace.
The next life-saving vaccine, blood test, or genetic treatment could be right around the corner. We're teaming scientists from different disciplines together to work towards a common goal, to find the causes of premature birth and birth defects, and to develop ways to prevent them.
So it might take 18 years, it might even take 30 years. But ultimately, we will dramatically reduce the occurrence of premature delivery, and it's going to occur in my lifetime.
In our nation's capital, we're speaking out for policies that can improve the health of moms, babies, and children. We aim to reduce premature births to 9.6% by 2020, saving $5 billion in healthcare costs annually. Around the world, more than 1 million babies die each year because they were born too soon. With the help of governments and our partners, we believe most of these deaths can be prevented. In 75 years, March of Dimes volunteers have made an immeasurable impact on the lives and health of children. The future has never been brighter. Stronger, healthier babies, 75 years in the making.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the very first Central Appalachia March of Dimes Executive Luncheon. Before we get started, I'd like to thank my friends and colleagues at Pike TV, Ronnie and Al, for being here today, as they are going to get us out to several thousand homes in eastern Kentucky and also in southern West Virginia and Al told me, he said, you need to start out with the joke. Well, I can say one thing about the folks at Pike TV. People will watch this event today because they record one of our shows, The Sports Guys, and if I say one thing wrong or if my buddy Andrew Joyce is picking on me a little bit too much, it don't matter where I'm at, they always comment, hey, we saw you on TV. So we like to thank the folks at Pike TV for being here. I'm excited to serve as the communications chair for this year's event, 2013 Central Appalachian March for Babies campaign. This is a charity, and there's a lot of charities out there that we all are a part of, but this is a charity that's very dear to my heart. The reason why that I've been involved in this charity since 2011, Jackson Tate Kinzer, my son, was born 14 weeks early and at 1 pound 15 ounces. He started out at Pikeville Medical Center, had to get transferred to St. Joe Hospital in Lexington, and then at University of Kentucky. Jackson spent 74 days in ICU. It was touch and go at times. If Jackson was even going to make it, even before my wife Dara gave birth to him. I mean, I remember one time the doctor told me, it said, Mr. Kinzer, you could lose your wife, you could lose your son. So, you know, that kind of hit home with me. Jackson right now is doing very good. He weighs 32 pounds and fighter, and he's always, you know, I call him Tank. I think he's going to be a football player because the room that he was born in, you can look out the window and see Commonwealth Stadium in Lexington. So I just think that he's just going to be a football player. But personal experience of mine also with March of Dimes, all money raised, you saw in the video a few minutes ago, goes for research. If it wasn't now for the research done, modern technology, I'd be burying my son, be honest with you, instead of raising my son. So that's a little bit of my story. The person that I want to introduce you, he's going to be our chairman this year for the 2013 Central Appalachia March for Babies event, for our event. I went up to this gentleman last year, the first time, when I was raising money for Team Jackson Tate, and I said, Judge, I said, I'm involved in March of Dimes, and this is what I'm doing, and I'll be honest with you, I like to have a donation. I've known Judge for over a decade. What I didn't know about my good friend was that, and he's going to share this story for you in just a moment, he relates to March of Dimes. He gets our charity, and he shared his story with me for about 20, 25, 30 minutes, and about brought me to tears, his personal story. So right now I want to bring up to you our chairman for the 2013 Central Appalachia March for Babies event is my good friend, Pike County Judge Executive Wayne T. Rutherford.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody, today. I know that we're all dedicated or wouldn't be here. Dedicated to, you saw the video as I did. I have a story to tell you, a little bit of my life. It's kind of emotional. I get that way. I don't talk about it much in public. I do it more often at church gatherings and things like that because, but I was in grade school, and I had two people in grade school that had contracted polio. And I was able to observe how they had to live and survive. I learned about the iron lung and what they used in the old system of the doctors used to let them just survive. So I had knowledge at very young, and they had the little cards, and many of you remember them, you take and you put dimes in them. And Codell Construction was constructing the Shelby Railroad Yard where I was lived and raised. And I would take those little cards because I understood what polio had done, and I knew what research was going on. And I'd take those cards and I'd go over to where these few hundred employees was working, and I would pick their water jug up, a great big water jug, and I wasn't very big in about the 8th grade, but I'd carry that water jug and I'd give them a sup of water, and then I would ask them for dimes. I collected back then a lot of money, $444, and it was a contest that the Pike County school systems had. Virgil's a board member now, but Woodrow Runyon, Virgil knew Woodrow, was chairman of the Pike County March of Dimes. And he'd come to our school and made a talk and handed out the cards. And I won in the county. I'd taken up more money. I left the grade school at Shelbyana, and I went to Pikeville High School. I was proficient in basketball. I'd played since I was in the 4th grade for a grade school team at Shelby. And in a way, I was in the Virgil's coach at Burgee later, but I was in the Burgee School District. And my mother and my mother's cousin, John Bill Tribbitt, legendary coach in Kentucky in the Hall of Fame, was a coach. And I wanted to play for John Bill Tribbitt. And even though I was in the Burgee District, Virgil, I went to play basketball for a relative of mine and somebody that my family admired, and then the worst thing could ever happened to me in my lifetime. In early 50s, and there's an epidemic going on in the country on polio. In 1952, there was 58,000 Americans. I became one of the 1,760 Kentuckians that contacted polio. They didn't know what it was here at the Pikeville Methodist Hospital. Their doctors got together, and Dr. Hamley had been at the University of Chicago Hospital, and a Dr. Bessinger, and Virgil remembers Dr. Bessinger. He lived next to Dr. Musgrave at Joe Nancy, right above Virgil's home where he was raised. Dr. Hamley, with my family physician, decided to take me to Dr. Bessinger at the Virgil Hospital. I went to the Virgil Hospital, and Dr. Bessinger gave me a spinal. I remember that because the nurse that gave me the spinal, watched him, she fainted and cut her head on the wall, and they had to sew her up. So I'll always remember that. But they gave me a spinal, and from that spinal, they told my family that I had polio. Loaded me up in an ambulance and took me to the old St. Joe Hospital in Lexington. I went in isolation. I stayed down there probably eight weeks. I had a continued migraine headache. I weighed approximately 180 some pounds, and when I left down there, I weighed 120 some. But as a young boy I wondered if I could ever marry or have a family, and it was devastating to me, very devastating. Wonder if I could ever have children and have a family. And Billy Crow, a student, Bill and Virginia Crow's daughter, was taken the same week I was. She was in elementary school at Pikeville. And she was in an iron lung. From my bed that I laid in, I could look down the hall at an angle and see her head in an iron lung. I wasn't in an iron lung. I had none paralytic. And my mother got to see me once a week. But but a lady from Pike County here who my family knew was a head nurse on the floor, Gail Hilton. Her dad lived at Pikeville and worked on the railroad at Shelby. And she was a head nurse, so my family felt some security for me because Gail was the head nurse and could look out after me. My mother would come to Lexington or be brought. They would only let her come in, but they would let a minister or somebody come in. So Mother had got Dr. Robert L. Anderson from Shelbyville to meet her over there each Friday, and he would come in with her. Dr. Anderson had been to Vogel Day and has preached at our church that we went to at Shelby, and knew my family well. And I was telling Virgil that when later years, a few years ago, I was Deputy Secretary of the Department of Human Resources and assigned to look at applications coming through the department in Frankfort. And I run across, and never did know this, but I run across just 3 applications for a job in southern Kentucky. And it was Robert L. Anderson's daughter. And I laid that aside because as good as he had been to my mother and to me, and to wait for the Fridays for them to come in and to visit with me. But I laid that aside, and she later got the job from the committee because I gave my recommendation to the secretary. But that's in essence is my story. And I said to the Lord, if you let me out of here and let me have health, whatever you want me to do, I'm your vessel. And I didn't know what he had in store for me, that it was a leadership position in government. I had no idea. But I asked for the wisdom for him to give me to do whatever he thought that my calling was. My mother wanted me to be a minister. And I thought about it. But the greatest tribute my mother ever gave to me was when she said, "Son, you didn't make it what I wanted you to be, a minister, but you made an honest politician." And that's the greatest thing that my mother ever said to me. But the Lord, I didn't know what he had in store, and what it's been. He gave me abilities I didn't know I have. I make decisions every day that affects people's lives. I've been doing it now for many, many years. But I don't lay awake and worry about it. As Pat can tell you, I'll sleep good. I get up early and write notes and memos and things to myself about what I have to do the next day or need to get done. But I leave it up to the Lord, any tough decision that I have to make. And it always works out. And that's the reason. But when, I had a long conversation with Don last year, the state director, and I was invited to speak at the walk, and I shared just a brief of this with him about why I was up there and why I was asked to speak, because I'd had my conversation with my friend, and I'd told him that my story. And so that's the reason I'm here today. When they come and ask me to be involved in this, I felt that I owed it to give back something that the March of Dimes. Virgil Woodrow Runyon, chairman of the Pike County March of Dimes, paid the hospital bill that my parents was unable to pay. They was able to pay some. But March of Dimes, that I had got out and got those $444 on those little cards, and had worked hard to get that, realizing that I knew what polio was, they paid my bill. And so that's what I'm doing here today. But March of Dimes has really, really moved on, done research, and the victory over polio. And I know that around the world that they had 350,000 cases in '88, and that was down to 223 in 2012. So it's been getting eradicated around the world, and it's because, and you saw the video, and you saw, and you know, I knew at that time, Virgil, if I came back crippled, that I could still do something. Because, folks, that fellow who saw on there, Franklin D. Roosevelt, had polio, and you all know that. He served for years. The media didn't even show that he was in a wheelchair or he had braces on, if you all remember. And but I knew even if he just let me live and had something for me to do, that I could do it if I came back, because I didn't know. And I never was told that I never would come back and not be able to be the health I'm in and the health that he's given me. And it is a relationship that you can't take away from me with the Lord. But we're here for children this year. I know that this family with Jackson knows that Pat and I, very early when what happened in this family happened, we followed it. Pat followed it almost daily or weekly on Facebook, and a lot of prayers went up for Jackson, and that's the reason he's here and I'm here today, because this research is going on in these babies back here. When we walked in and saw them, that's what it's all about. Now, I know that we was talking about, and I got a lot of calls back on the letters that went out. A lot of people are on vacation. A lot of my staff, I have Carl Napier and Bobby Branham here today from my staff, but most people's on vacation. Or we would have had them up here because we intend to get involved and stay involved. But I maintain a very busy schedule, as everybody knows, but this is so important, and this March for Babies, and they're going to announce the date, and Pike TV is going to carry that date, and it is an opportunity, and Pikeville Medical Center. And I'm also on the health board. I've been on the Pike County Health Board more than 20 years, and our board is very much interested in this, the baby situation, and as we are in diabetes and as we are in the obesity. We took up the last meeting and had a long discussion, Carl, in regard to smoking and its effects on people's health. So we're going to be involved through many different ways in regard to helping raise money. And the community director from, I think you lived at Ashland, we held a very lengthy meeting in my office and put together a little plan for how that we were going to do this here and how we'd get the publicity all out. And Bobby then, of course, Brandon broke his foot, and then he's on vacation this week, getting over his broke foot, I guess. And but we'll get organized and let the people know how important this is and this march. I want to say that I was surprised, and I'm sure that you were surprised last year that the crowd that came out up to Bob Amos Park that took a part in this. It was heartwarming to see all those young people, young parents and grandparents up there because of their concern for their children and the future health of children as God puts his children here on earth. So that is what I'm here for, Pikeville Medical Center, what they have meant to this community and will continue to meet. You're going to hear from a doctor from that facility who is one of the most dedicated people that I know to this cause. And we all know we can't do anything by ourselves. I mean, we can't. We got to have our family's help and support. We got to have our neighbors. We got to have our church, and we got to have community support. I can't do anything alone if I don't have help in the job that I've got. I'm the chief executive, but that won't make any difference. I have to have support, and I have to have advice. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I'm the smartest to put people that knows more about the issues that we got to do in county government than I do. And then, Virgil, you move on, and they do the tireless work, and I sometimes cut ribbons and make decisions. But that's how it gets done. And to give an example, I went back into office, and I've been out and in. This is my 6th term. But I went back this time, I took an attorney and 2 CPAs. Now, things have changed, folks. Technology has changed. This research around America and the world is changing the world today. But this is a great cause, and I just wanted to share that with you why I'm here today and why I'm able to stand up here. And the Lord has blessed me to give me the health I have today to be here and to have the opportunity to govern and be chief executive of the greatest county in the Commonwealth. Thank you all, and God bless.
And we'd like to thank Judge Rutherford for being our chair for this year's event. Next person I'm going to introduce, and one thing that March of Dimes is let me be able to do with a lot of others is create awareness. I think that's what we did last year as a group committee to get the word out, and also make friends. And also, I can pronounce neonatologist, because this next gentleman, doctor, I had to introduce. You know, we go to various sites last year to talk about March of Dimes, and I'd be like, hey, Doc, how do you pronounce your title? Because I don't know how. So right now I'd like to bring up here a very dedicated doctor, my good friend, neonatologist from Pikeville Medical Center, Dr. Todd Hamilton.
Well, thanks, Joe. I'll try and be brief. I guess this year I'm speaking on behalf of the hospital, which happens. I'm very proud to say that Pikeville Medical Center is going to be the presenting sponsor this year for the March of Dimes, and I'm very glad that the hospital has stepped up and provided this to this community. They've kind of taken a role in a lot of ways. One of the things that I took from Judge Rutherford's story is when he mentioned not being able to see his family for some time when he was in the hospital, and that's something that all of these families face when their babies are sent off to Lexington or Huntington or somewhere that's far away. You know, there's a lot of families around here have transportation issues getting 30 minutes from where they live, let alone 3 hours, or getting away from work long enough to be able to see their babies. So the hospital's been working hard at trying to expand what we can do to help those families around here. The cause itself, March of Dimes, it's so important, and really anything I say is not going to have anywhere near the impact of what the Varneys will tell you in a little bit. I've written down numbers before. The United States, when it comes to preterm births, is worse than most every other industrialized nation. We are worse than most any country in Europe, Canada, Australia. About 1 in 8 babies born in the United States is born premature. Kentucky, when you compare it to the rest of the U.S., is worse. Our rate's around 13%, 13.5%. So it's about 1 in 7 babies born in the state of Kentucky. And something I learned recently attending the Governor's Summit for Infant Health is that apparently Kentucky, since 1996, has some of the highest rates in the nation for infant mortality when you talk about SIDS or unexplained infant deaths. Our rates have been rising since '96 and are much, much higher than the national average. So there's a lot of room in this state, in this region. This is an important problem. When you look at these babies, babies have no voice. Throughout the year we see many fundraisers for very, very important philanthropies, and I would never want to knock another philanthropy, but if you look at several of the, for example, cancer walks or fundraisers to support cancer research. My mother has had cancer twice, and she can come and speak to that, but these babies, they don't have anyone to speak for them. They can't speak up for themselves. They're not a vocal majority, and that's why those of us who have the ability to need to stand up for them and get the help that they need. All the money that goes to the March of Dimes is extremely important, and you can gloss over a lot of the research that goes on. A lot of it goes, there's a lot of local programs. I believe there's a program in Floyd County that's going on right now through the March of Dimes. The cost itself for premature births is around $26 million a year just for the United States. And for parents, if you have a premature baby, for the baby's first year of life, the health care cost for that baby is 10 times more than it would be if it was a term baby. So the benefit for everyone in cost and just in trying to help to get research and prevent preterm births, help these babies be healthier. You're helping the future in many ways. You're helping save money. You're helping the kids that are going to grow up and take care of you when you're older. You know, these are all, if you're a business, these are your future patrons. And I think anyone who has children knows that you can take care of me and I'll be very grateful. You take care of my children and you've made a lifelong friend. And so it's very important. We encourage a lot of the businesses around here to be involved in the fundraising. The March of Dimes has a lot of great benefits for each company that helps. One, you can promote it. You're helping babies, and that can make a big difference. It's a good way to kind of have some goodwill within your staff. It's a good team building experience, helping to build kind of a bond between your staff. There's a lot of companies, especially nationwide, that are doing a lot of work with March of Dimes. And so you can be associated with the same kind of companies that are doing a lot of work such as that. And you'll be a very visible leader to the surrounding area in doing something that makes a difference to families. So to talk a little bit more about what some of these programs are, the March of Dimes itself, and some of the ways that the March of Dimes can help is I'd like to introduce now Katrina Smith, who is the State Director of Program Services for the March of Dimes in Kentucky. Smith.
Well, thank you so much for having me here today. And I was telling Virgil back there, it is great to be in a place where nobody has an accent. So I'm glad to be back in the mountains and home where I can just speak freely. I want to tell you a little bit about what the March of Dimes does. Before we got started today, somebody was telling me that, again, there's a little thing circulating on the website that says, oh, don't donate to the March of Dimes because they only give a dime for every dollar. Well, I can tell you that certainly is not the truth. March of Dimes is very proud to say that we are one of the only organizations that puts back in about 75 cents to every dollar into programming and research. So we are very proud of that. We have very little overhead costs, so you can rest assured that every dollar that you give to the March of Dimes really is making a difference. Of course, our mission is to improve the birth and the health of babies by preventing preterm birth, birth defects, and infant mortality. And what a moving story, both spiritually and professionally. And thank you for sharing your story today, Judge. That was great, and we should all have that little recording every time we start to give, and every time we stay in the shower too long at the March of Dimes because we don't want to go to work that day. That would be a very uplifting story, because that's really what we're all about here. There has been a lot of progress, both medically, epidemiological progress, progress in our education and how we work with families, from about 1984 to 2013 to currently this year, we have given out over $934,000 of research grants, and that has primarily been to the University of Kentucky and the University of Louisville. And as far as community grants in Kentucky, since 2000, we have given out over $1,118,000 worth of money, and I'm here personally to tell you that I would really love to see some of that money in Eastern Kentucky. I know we have needs all over the state. I know that different areas have different needs, but this is certainly an area that's dear to my heart, and that certainly has need for programming. You know, we want to build a relationship even deeper with the hospital, with everything that we can, so that we can see money coming into Eastern Kentucky, so that we can work with the families here and really help them. And you know, Kentucky has a lot to be proud of. We started the Healthy Babies Are Worth the Wait program right here in Kentucky. It was a pilot project funded by the Johnson & Johnson Pediatric Institute, the National March of Dimes, and the State Department for Public Health in Kentucky. And so far we have 8 hospitals who are working in that. So we really want to see those programs expand, and that is a real world project that helps pregnant women have the healthiest pregnancy possible, whether it's substance abuse that they're battling, whether it's smoking cessation, getting early and adequate prenatal care, good nutrition, all of those things. So those are programs that we really want to see more activated in this part of the state as well. Just in this week, today's Friday, and about 147 babies have been born just during this week that are premature. And we have about 8 babies who will not see their first birthday. So those are the things that we really want to work on and address. It is my privilege and honor, and you'll see how this really comes home in addition to the stories that we've already heard today, the Varney family. And you know, it's my dream that one day little Gabe Varney might be standing here where Judge Rutherford stood, telling everybody how premature birth was eradicated. So I would like to welcome Michelle and Ron, if he's going to join you, and Gabe. This is the Varney family, your ambassador family for this year.
Good afternoon. I want to take just a few minutes to share our story. My family and I are so thankful to be this year's ambassador family and grateful to have this opportunity to share our story. In August 2009, my husband and I were so excited to find that we were expecting our first child. Like most first-time parents, we were nervous about the unknowns of pregnancy. The weeks flew by and we soon found we were having a boy. During the holidays, I began to have some swelling and didn't really think anything of it. However, during the following weeks, my swelling increased and I began to have some more complications. At 25 weeks, I went to my OB with what I thought was just an infection. I had a small amount of protein in my urine and pain in my upper abdomen, so for precaution, the doctor ordered a 24-hour urine test. After returning the sample to the hospital, my husband and I came home and we still weren't really worried. However, the test results came back very abnormal, and Dr. McClellan called us at home to give us the news that I had a severe form of preeclampsia called HELLP syndrome. He instructed us to come to the hospital. We'd be having our baby. We were beyond devastated. We met Dr. McClellan at Pikeville Medical Center, and he explained that since we were delivering so early, he would transfer us to UK. I received my one and only surfactant shot before leaving. The doctors there confirmed that I did have HELLP syndrome, and that to save my life, we would have to deliver. They put it off as long as possible, but our sweet boy, Gunnar Eric, was born the next morning by emergency C-section, weighing in at 1 pound, 3.4 ounces, and only 13 inches long. He was tiny, but such a little fighter. Ron and I stayed by his bedside as much as possible, praying that he would overcome all he was up against. His greatest issue was his underdeveloped lungs. For 13 days he fought, but his little body gave up on January 26th. In an instant, all our hopes and dreams for his life were gone. We had to bury our son, a parent's worst nightmare. Once months went by as we grieved our loss, and our life took on a new normal. We found we were expecting our second child in September 2010. This time we knew all we were up against. We weren't really naive about it. We so desperately wanted another child, though. Because the recurrence of HELP is very high, we decided to see a high-risk specialist for prenatal care in Lexington. Our doctor set an initial goal of 28 weeks for us. The weeks came and went with no abnormalities, and we found we were having another boy. We were thrilled. No baby could replace Gunner, but it just seemed right that we would have another boy. At 34 weeks, however, I woke early with lower abdominal pain, thinking it was just severe round ligament pain. I tried to get ready for work. I decided after a couple hours I maybe should just take the day off and rest. Ron was trying to decide if he should stay with me when I began passing out. We rushed to PMC again and were met by Dr. McClellan once more. He immediately took action and quickly realized that something was terribly wrong. Within minutes of my arrival, I was rushed into surgery for another emergency C-section. I kept thinking, this couldn't be happening again. We couldn't lose another child. Dr. McClellan found that my uterus had ruptured. Gabriel Cole, who is back there making all the ruckus, was born May 3rd, 2011 at 5 pounds, 8.6 ounces and 17 3/4 inches long. He was immediately taken to the NICU and put on a ventilator. Under the care of Dr. Hambleton and the wonderful staff at PMC, he grew and made progress every day. We had a few scares, but after 17 days, we were able to bring our baby boy home. Gabe is now a happy, healthy, rambunctious, obviously, 2-year-old that keeps us laughing. He is an absolute joy and has the most contagious smile. We are certain God made him extra special. And I thank you so much for allowing me to share our boys' stories with you. Although there wasn't a solution to help Gunner, I have to believe that one day that there might be help for babies like him. No parent should have to lose their child. I'm also beyond thankful that there was help for Gabe. Without the March of Dimes, he may not be here. Please know that your support means so much to families like us. Thank you.
This is just an emotional story, and I know that the Varneys, they're real good friends with my wife, Dara, and just be real quick and real brief, when Dara had her placenta abruption, I had to go to do my obligations to covering a Pike Central and a Greenup County ball game, and I called Ron, Coach Varney, because he's a football coach up there, and I was devastated. I said, you know, this is what's going on and everything. I didn't want to be there, needed to be at the hospital with my wife, and couldn't leave. And he shared me their story, and that's the first story that I was shared about premature babies, premature births, and that helped out tremendously. And we found out since since last year that more families go through this as well. So I'll never forget that story. Just an emotional evening and everything. I'm thrilled to announce that this year's 2013 Central Appalachian March for Babies Walk is going to be scheduled for Saturday, September 28th at Bob Amos Park in Pikeville. Registration is going to begin at noon. We're going to do something a little bit different this year. It's going to be at noon instead of in the morning time, and the walk is going to take place at 1 o'clock. So that's going to be again on Saturday, September 28th at Bob Amos Park here in Pikeville. Last year we had over 300 people to show up. We're expecting over 500 or maybe more than double that this year. Last year I think we raised a little bit over $35,000. I know that 1/3 of that was due to the fundraising efforts of the Pike County school systems and the Pikeville independent school systems. We're going to name our kickoff ceremony at a later date, but I know one thing that we're going to be doing during that ceremony is we have a travel and trophies made for the school that raised the most money, and then we got a plaque for second and third place. We're going to be handing those out. So we really do appreciate Pike County Board of Education, and also Pikeville Independent School Systems for doing that last year, and hopefully we'll be able to do that again this year. To reach our goal of $45,000, we're focused on 2 revenue streams. First is corporate sponsorship and Walker dollars. You know, our goal for corporate sponsorship is $10,000. Also, Judge Rutherford and also Dr. Hamilton has touched briefly on it. We are so proud to announce that this year's presenting sponsor for the walk is Pikeville Medical Center, 3-time National Hospital of the Year. When you talk about health leaders and serving the residents of Eastern Kentucky, but Southern West Virginia and Western Virginia, Pikeville Medical Center, they continue to grow, and they are a leader in our health industry. So we would like to thank, again, Pikeville Medical Center for being our presenting sponsor. In your packets today, you're going to receive a copy of the sponsorship brochure. Business owners, leaders, everyone, please take a look and see what may be a good match for your company. Again, we appreciate any support that we can get for the March of Dimes. For all sponsors signed on by June 28th, Kristen may be, since this is the 21st, you may be able to extend this a little bit. Your logo will be featured on the Walker envelope. 1,000 will be printed and distributed to all walkers. So the deadline for that, if you want to be a sponsor and quickly sign up, is June 28th. Again, we might be able to extend that a little bit. Our other revenue stream is Walker dollars, and I did not realize this until last year, but that's the majority of where our money comes in for each and every walk. Again, our goal this year is $45,000. The sponsorship goes $10,000. Now, we're not going to stop at $10,000. If we can raise more than that, that's fine. I hope we blow it out of the water. But majority of the monies raised at these events are for walking teams, for teams that go out, raise money. Some people are very creative. I'm just going to tell you one thing. It's going to be hard to beat Michelle Varney and her team because they're dedicated. I mean, they are very dedicated. So we're all going to have our work cut out for that. If you're a major employer, the March of Dimes team has the resources to show you how to manage multiple teams within your company. Team fundraising represents almost 80% of the goals. So that's what I was talking about earlier, that everyone that gets a team, we're not talking about corporate sponsors, but 80% of the goal is fundraised through that. So we're going to have a lot of work to do this year. You know, last year we got on a little bit of a late start, and it was a phenomenal year. And the thing about it is, you know, that you get hung up on raising money for a good cause, for research. And you know, I'm very competitive like everyone else in this room is, and I'm like, how come I couldn't raise $500 more? But Don pulled me aside, and Linda, who was with us last year, she's retired, pulled me aside and said it's creating awareness. That's the main thing. And I think that we've done that, and I think that's very vital that we continue to do that, because I didn't realize how many babies are affected, how many families are affected. It's affected each and every day. So before you leave today, I encourage you to fill out this card that we have with you and support this year's walk by joining a committee if you want to be a sponsor or just start a team. People watching Pike TV right now, anything that you can do to help this worthy cause, we appreciate it. And if you want to talk to a member of the March of Dimes staff today, they'll answer any questions. Again, 75 cents on every dollar goes to the charity. That's phenomenal, because that's what I was asked last year when I was going out talking to people. And that's when you go out to talk to people this year, that's what people's going to ask you. You know, that's the first thing people's going to ask you, what March of Dimes is, how much of it goes back to the charity. I think it's very vital that we share that 75 cents on every dollar. Also in your folder, you'll notice the business card for Kristen Lehman. Kristen is our local March of Dimes community director. She's from Ashland, so that's kind of in the mountains. We've adopted her now. She's very dedicated, very, very hard worker. If Kristen sends you an email and have any questions, respond back to her. Very accessible. You can call her on her cell phone office number. Again, Kristen is very accessible. If you have a lead on who would like to participate in this year's event, if you don't feel comfortable contacting an individual or a company, pass it off to Kristen. Kristen, get a hold of her. She'll make the contact. She'll make the call for you. So again, thank you everyone for joining this year, and we're going to have our kickoff. Maybe we're going to work on that. The committee is just in a few weeks. But again, we hope to see a lot of you and everyone in this room, and also watching us today via Pike TV at Bob Amos Park on September 28th at 1 o'clock for the 2013 Central Appalachia March for Babies. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.